Have you ever noticed that some people seem to make good financial decisions almost automatically? They don't constantly talk about money, they don't flaunt their wealth on social media, and they often don't even earn extraordinary salaries. Even so, they manage to keep their finances in order, save money, and build wealth over time. It looks like talent, it looks like luck, but there's a much more interesting possibility. What if the difference isn't how much they earn, but the quiet discipline they practice every single day? The most interesting part is that many financially disciplined people don't even realize they have rare habits. They believe they're simply being careful. As you watch, try to count how many of these signs are part of your routine. You might be much further ahead than you imagine. The first sign is almost invisible. You don't feel an urgent need to buy everything you want. When you see an interesting product, your first reaction isn't to grab your credit card. You wait, you research, you compare. Sometimes a few days later, you realize you didn't even really want it. Someone looking from the outside might think you're indecisive. But in reality, you're doing something very few people can: stopping emotions from making decisions instead of logic. Financial discipline almost always begins with the ability to wait. Another sign appears when you receive extra money. Imagine you get a bonus, a gift, or an unexpected payment. Many people see this as an opportunity to spend without guilt, but you think differently. Before deciding what to do, you consider saving part of it, investing it, or paying off some debt. That doesn't mean you never enjoy life. It simply means your brain understands that financial opportunities also deserve planning. Now think about this. You usually keep track of your spending without anyone having to remind you. Maybe you don't write down absolutely everything, but you know where most of your money is going. When you notice unnecessary spending, you try to fix the problem before it becomes a habit. Most people only pay attention when the money runs out. Disciplined people watch where their money is going while it's still coming in. There's also a behavior that many people misunderstand. You don't buy something just because everyone else is buying it. A new product launches, everyone is talking about it. Social media seems to say it's essential. Even so, you ask yourself a simple question: does this really improve my life? That small pause prevents countless impulse purchases. While many people follow trends, you follow priorities. Another important sign is that you feel satisfied when you achieve financial goals. It doesn't have to be a huge goal. It could be finishing the month spending less than you planned, increasing your emergency fund, or finally paying off a debt. Some people only feel happy when they buy something new. You also feel pleasure when you see progress. That difference completely changes the way your brain views money. Now here's a behavior that seems strange to many people. You're not ashamed to say no. An expensive invitation, an impulse purchase, or an expense that doesn't make sense simply isn't part of your plans. Some people mistake this for not knowing how to have fun. But financial discipline doesn't mean saying no to everything. It means learning to say no to what pulls you away from your goals. There's another powerful sign: you learn from your own mistakes. Maybe you've made impulse purchases in the past. Maybe you've wasted money on something you never used. The difference is that you don't turn those mistakes into a routine. Instead of justifying bad decisions, you try to understand what happened so you can do better next time. Disciplined people aren't perfect. They simply avoid repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Now think about another situation. You can tell the difference between price and value. You don't always choose the cheapest option. Instead, you look for what truly offers quality, durability, and long-term benefits. You understand that saving money doesn't always mean spending less. Many times it means spending better. This shift in perspective helps you avoid losses that most people never even notice. Another almost invisible behavior is paying attention to the small details. You notice forgotten subscriptions, unnecessary fees, food waste, and purchases that seem too small to matter. While many people believe those amounts make no difference, you understand that wealth is usually built or lost through hundreds of small decisions repeated over the years. Perhaps one of the strongest signs is this: you think about the future before spending in the present. Before making an important purchase, you imagine how that decision will affect you a few months or even a few years from now. This simple habit transforms your choices from emotional to strategic. While some people live only to satisfy immediate desires, You also think about the opportunities you're creating for your future. And there's one final behavior that almost nobody notices. You keep learning about money. You read, research, watch videos, change your mind when you find better information, and understand that financial education never ends. The world changes, the economy changes, and opportunities change. Disciplined people know that continuing to learn is one of the best ways to protect and multiply what they've achieved. Now, do a quick mental count. How many of these signs describe you? 2? 5? Maybe almost all of them? If that's the case, you might be making a very common mistake, believing that financial discipline only exists once someone has already become wealthy. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Wealth is usually the result of discipline, not its starting point. The habits come first. The results come later. Building wealth rarely depends on one brilliant decision. It usually depends on the quiet repetition of smart choices. Small pauses before buying, small controls over spending, small priorities repeated every day. Those are the actions that, over time, create a huge gap between people who live paycheck to paycheck and those who achieve financial freedom. Now, I want to hear from you. How many of these signs are part of your life? Write that number in the comments because I'm curious to find out which habit appears most often among everyone who watched until the end. If this video made you realize that financial discipline is much simpler than it seems, leave a like so more people can discover it too. And subscribe to the channel because in the next videos, you'll discover more quiet habits that help ordinary people build wealth consistently. See you in the next video.